Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening one of the most, well, provocative and influential texts on individual achievement I think I've ever come across.
It really is something else, isn't it?
It claims to contain, basically, a master philosophy for achieving riches. Like a formula.
Exactly, and not just pulled out of thin air. This was developed over, 25 years?
25 years, yeah. Based on meticulously analyzing the most successful, titans of American industry from that era.
That's absolutely right. We are diving into the core principles synthesized from the real experiences, the methods, of over 500 incredibly wealthy and influential men.
We're talking huge names. People who really define that whole industrial age. Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford.
The promise here is just massive. A 13-step blueprint that supposedly outlines not just what you need for success, but really drills down into the how, the actual mental and practical steps.
So our mission today really is synthesis. We want to take this quite a dense roadmap and pull out the most actionable bits, the most surprising insights maybe.
Yeah, the goal for you, the listener, is to walk away with something usable. A functional blueprint, you could say.
Like a shortcut for translating that abstract idea, that wish, into cold, hard cash, maybe, without getting totally bogged down in all the philosophy.
That's the aim, and we should probably talk about the authority here, right up front.
Good point. This isn't just some, theoretical self-help book churned out yesterday.
Not at all. The whole project, the story goes, was inspired by Andrew Carnegie himself. He apparently believed this magic formula should be out there for everyone.
And he's cited explicitly, isn't he? As someone who used this very secret not only to build his own massive fortune, but to help create, a score of millionaires among his associates.
Yeah, by teaching them these principles. And beyond Carnegie, you had others endorsing it, people who built huge institutions.
Like F.W. Woolworth. He credited these ideas with the success of his whole retail empire.
Right. Even someone like Woodrow Wilson apparently praised the framework, saying it provided essential stuff for leadership.
Okay, so if we're treating this like a system, like a science almost,
Yeah.
where do we even start? What's the absolute first ingredient?
Well, it's not what you might expect. It's not a business plan. It's not necessarily education. Definitely not inherited wealth.
No.
The foundation. The absolute starting point of all achievement, according to this philosophy, is simply desire.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because, everyone desires success. I desire a vacation right now, but that feeling isn't booking any flights.
Ah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the crux. The source material is super clear on this. Weak desires, they bring weak results. Simple as that.
So what's the difference?
To successfully translate desire into actual riches, it says you need what it calls a burning desire. Capital letters, burning.
A burning desire. Okay.
It has to become this absolute consuming obsession, something you're willing to stake your entire future on.
Wow. So intense it drives you to actually make definite plans for getting it.
Yes, you have to become, and this is their phrase, money conscious. Not just wanting it, but actively conscious of acquiring it.
All right, so how do you take that feeling, that burning thing, and actually make it work? Mechanize it somehow?
Well, this is where the philosophy gets really practical, almost technical. It lays out these famous 6 definite practical steps, a process for transmuting desire into its financial equivalent.
Like emotional engineering.
You could call it that. And we absolutely have to stress the word definite here. Ambiguity is the enemy. It leads straight back to weak results.
Okay, step 1. Lay it on us.
Step 1, you have to fix the exact amount of money you desire.
Not just a lot of money or enough to be comfortable.
Nope, a specific figure, down to the dollar, ideally. Why do you think that specific number is so critical?
I guess psychologically. If it's vague, your mind doesn't really know what to aim for, like throwing darts in the dark.
Precisely. A definite amount acts like a clear target. It gives the subconscious something concrete to focus on and organize around, prevents that energy just dissipating.
Okay, makes sense. Step 2?
Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for the money you're demanding.
The no such thing as something for nothing clause.
It's very firm on that. You have
Right.
to define your contribution up front. What value are you bringing?
Got it. Step 3.
Establish a definite date, a firm timeline. When exactly do you intend to possess this money?
So creating urgency. Fighting procrastination.
Absolutely. Procrastination is seen as a major enemy of achievement in this system. A deadline forces action.
Step 4.
Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire. And this is crucial. Begin at once. Immediately. Start putting that plan into action.
Don't wait for the perfect plan or the perfect time.
No. Start now, even if imperfectly. Action is key.
Okay, step 5.
Write it all down. A clear, concise statement covering those first 4 points. The amount, what you'll give, the date, and the plan.
Taking it out of your head and onto paper gives it substance, makes it more real.
That's the idea. It forces clarity and commitment.
And finally, step 6, this sounds like the most interesting one, taps into the mind power stuff.
It really does. Step 6. Read your written statement aloud, twice daily. Once just before you go to sleep at night, and again right when you wake up.
Okay.
And here's the kicker. As you read it, you must actively see, feel, and believe yourself already in full possession of the money.
Whoa. So you're not just reading words, you're embodying the outcome.
Exactly. The power lies in what they call auto-suggestion, which we can dig into more later. But the promise is, if your desire is truly that burning obsession, you'll eventually find it easy to convince yourself you will get it. You're essentially programming your subconscious with an emotionally charged command, a command it has to obey.
This whole process, this transmutation, there's a story that illustrates it perfectly, isn't there? Edwin C. Barnes and his connection to Thomas Edison.
Well, Barnes is the ultimate example. Talk about an underdog.
Right. He shows up penniless, no influence, barely any education, certainly no introductions.
But he had one thing, this fierce, unyielding desire. And it was specific. He don't just want a job with Edison.
No, he wanted to be Edison's business associate. A partner, essentially. Huge difference.
Massive. So he gets to Edison's laboratories looking so rough they apparently mistook him for a tramp.
But he wouldn't leave, just refused. And he gets offered this really menial job, right? Sweeping floors or something.
Something very basic, manual labor. But here's the key insight from the philosophy. He took it. He accepted that suboptimal first step.
Why? Because it put him in the right place.
Yeah.
The right environment.
Exactly. It got him near his goal, physically present where opportunity might strike, even though the job itself wasn't the goal. He kept his eye on the prize.
And he just kept that internal request burning, didn't he? That single desire with total determination.
Total bulldog determination. And the philosophy points out opportunity often comes disguised. Misfortune, temporary defeat. It slips in the back door. Barnes was just there, patient, persistent, ready.
And the opportunity finally showed up, unexpectedly.
Yeah. Edison had invented a new office machine, the Ediphone, like a dictation device, but his salesmen...
They weren't keen, didn't think it would sell.
Exactly, they were lukewarm. Edison needed someone who, yes, understood the machine, but more importantly, understood him, understood his innovative way of thinking. Someone with faith in a revolutionary product.
And because Barnes was there, hanging around, being persistent...
He stepped up, he knew Edison, he believed in the product, and he successfully marketed the Ediphone.
And Edison was impressed. So impressed, he gave Barnes a contract to distribute and market it nationally.
Boom. Barnes achieved his exact desire, became Edison's associate, made a fortune. His story is presented as absolute proof that determination, born from a single definite desire, can just mow down obstacles like poverty or lack of education.
Okay, so Barnes shows persistence winning out over temporary defeat. What about the definiteness of that desire? Henry Ford seems like the go-to example there.
Oh, absolutely. The legendary V8 motor story. It's perfect for illustrating definiteness, even when faced with impossible.
Right, Ford demands his engineers design and build a V8 engine, but cast in a single block, one piece.
And his engineers, the experts in the field, they were immediately like, whoa, hold on. They thought it was impossible with current technology.
They spent months trying, right? Running tests, doing calculations, compiling reports.
All proving, technically, scientifically, that casting a V8 block in one solid piece just couldn't be done.
So they go back to Ford, present their findings. Boss, it's impossible.
But Ford, he wasn't interested in their technical proofs of impossibility. His desire wasn't tentative. It was absolute. Fixed.
And his response was just epic, wasn't it? Basically, go back and do it anyway.
Pretty much. The quote they use is, "Go right ahead, I want it and I'll have it." Just a command.
Wow. That's powerful.
And that's the psychological lesson highlighted here. Ford's absolute refusal to accept defeat, his sheer certainty, forced his team to keep looking, keep trying, even when they knew it was impossible.
And they worked for another year, apparently.
Another year. And finally, driven by Ford's unshakable demand, they stumbled upon the secret. They figured out how to do the casting.
It almost sounds like his will just bent reality. I I mean, that's a huge claim.
It is a huge claim. But the philosophy isn't necessarily saying Ford had unique magic powers.
No.
It argues that anyone can potentially harness this. When desire is that definite, that absolute, it focuses the mind so intensely.
Yeah.
It basically compels the subconscious, or maybe just the combined ingenuity of the team, to find a way.
So Ford's winning determination, as they call it, won out over apparent physical impossibility.
It's presented as a testament to the power of a mindset that simply refuses to concede. The key is that definiteness, knowing exactly what you want and refusing to budge.
Okay, so setting that burning desire is step one. But as we saw with Ford's engineers, the moment you set it, you hit resistance, obstacles, reality pushes back.
Exactly, which leads us directly into the next crucial steps in this philosophy: decision and persistence. How do you keep going when things get tough?
Because failure, the book says, isn't usually about lack of smarts or lack of opportunity.
Right. It's most often caused by something simpler: the habit of quitting, giving up at the first whiff of temporary defeat.
So persistence is the antidote, that sustained effort needed to actually push the desire into reality.
Precisely. Sustained, organized effort. And there's that famous, almost painful story that illustrates this perfectly. Are You Darby and the Gold Mine?
The 3 feet from gold story. It's brutal.
It really is. So Darby and his uncle, they strike gold ore in Colorado. They get consumed by this desire for riches naturally.
They invest everything, borrow money, buy machinery.
They ship the first load of ore, and it confirms they've hit a massive vein, one of the richest in Colorado. They think they've made it.
But then, the vein just disappears, vanishes.
On, and they keep drilling frantically, desperately, but nothing. Just rock.
So they face this huge disappointment, this temporary defeat, and they quit.
They give up, sell all their machinery to a local junk man for a few $100s, totally convinced the mine is tapped out, washed up.
And here's the tragic part.
Yeah. The junk man, he wasn't a miner. He just saw a potential profit. So what does he do?
He brings in an expert, right? A mining engineer,
Yeah.
someone with specialized knowledge.
Exactly. Someone who understood geology, understood things like fault lines, these geological shifts that can displace an ore vein.
And the engineer does his calculations.
And figures out the vein probably picks up again just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. 3 feet!
Unbelievable.
The junk man starts drilling and boom, hits the main vein again, pulls millions of dollars in ore from the mine the Darbys abandoned.
So Darby's failure wasn't just quitting. It was deeper than that.
It was quitting based on incomplete information, a failure to seek expert counsel. He gave up right on the edge of success because he didn't understand that setbacks, these fault lines, are often temporary and predictable if you have the right knowledge.
But the story doesn't end there for Darby, does it? He learned from this, eventually.
He did. He applied the lesson years later, totally outside of mining, in sales. And the catalyst was this really unexpected encounter, what the book calls the 50-cent lesson.
Right, he's working at his uncle's wheat mill.
And this little girl, described as a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant farmer, comes up to Darby's uncle and asks him for 50 cents.
And the uncle, who's known for being pretty grumpy,
Immediately snaps at her. No, I won't do it, now run along home. Really harsh.
but the little girl, she doesn't budge.
Doesn't move an inch, just stands there, silently, holding her ground. The uncle yells again, even threatens her with a piece of wood.
Still nothing. Just quiet, absolute demand for that 50 cents, like she just expected it.
And faced with this pure, unyielding presence, the uncle just cracks. He starts laughing, puts down the stave, and gives her the 50 cents.
And Darby witnesses this whole thing.
Then it hits him like a ton of bricks. He realizes this small, seemingly powerless child just completely mastered a strong, stubborn adult.
Through sheer persistence. Absolute unyielding persistence, a power she was using without even knowing its name.
Exactly, and Darby took that lesson to heart. He started selling life insurance. And he learned that no from a prospect. It's often just the start of the conversation.
It's just a temporary roadblock, not the final answer.
Right. He later said that most of his biggest sales, the really significant commissions, came from following up after the prospect had already said no, sometimes multiple times.
He realized that losing the gold mine was actually a blessing because it hammered home that core truth. Success demands you just keep on keeping on. Persistence.
And that kind of sustained effort, that persistence, it's basically impossible without the other quality you mentioned, decision.
Ah, yes, decision. The philosophy draws a really sharp contrast here between successful people and failures, doesn't it?
Very sharp and very practical. It boils down to 2 things: speed and stability.
Okay.
Successful people, it claims, reach decisions promptly, quickly, and then, crucially, they change those decisions slowly, if at all. They stick to it.
Whereas failures.
Failures reach decisions slowly, maybe never really deciding firmly, and then they change their minds quickly and often, constantly shifting.
So the real killer, the biggest obstacle to success, according to this, is procrastination, which is basically just the failure to decide.
That's it, indecision. And the advice is blunt, almost harsh.
Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand.
That's the one. Action now. Because making a prompt, definite decision has this psychological power. It signals commitment. It tells your subconscious, okay, we're doing this, and it starts organizing things. It cuts off the possibility of retreat.
Cutting off retreat, like that historical analogy they used. The warrior burning his ships.
Exactly. The story of the great general who lands his army in enemy territory, and the first thing he does is order his soldiers to burn the boats they arrived on.
Imagine watching those ships go up in smoke. No way back.
Total commitment. The warrior then tells his men, you see the boats burning. That means we cannot leave these shores alive unless we win. We now have no choice. We win or we perish.
Wow. That creates a certain focus, doesn't it?
It creates what the book calls a burning desire to win. By eliminating the escape route, you generate the kind of desperation that fuels absolute effort and, potentially, success.
They mentioned Marshall Field doing something similar after the Great Chicago Fire.
Yeah, his store burns to the ground, total devastation. While others are wringing their hands, deciding whether to even stay in the ruined city, Field apparently declares right then and there that he'll start rebuilding the very next day. That's a burning the ships kind of decision.
When we see this power of decision on a massive scale in the founding of the United States, we celebrate July 4th, 1776, the Declaration.
But the philosophy argues the real turning point, the real power move, came earlier. And it involved a definite decision backed by another key principle we need to discuss, the mastermind.
Okay, so how did decision play out there?
It starts with individuals like Samuel Adams, John Hancock, guys willing to risk everything, literally charges of treason, punishable by death. They decided early on to demand the removal of British troops.
But the big organizational decision point came in 1774.
Yes. After repeated threats and crackdowns from the British, Adams apparently gathered his key allies in a room, locked the door.
Seriously, locked them in.
The story goes, he locked the door and told everyone nobody was leaving until they made a firm decision to organize a congress of all the colonies, to unify.
That's intense, forcing the decision.
And it worked. That meeting led directly to the First Continental Congress convening on September 5th, 1774.
And the book argues that date is maybe even more important than July 4th, 1776.
It makes that case strongly, because the decision to form a unified power structure to act collectively came first. The Declaration of Independence, signed almost 2 years later, was the necessary outcome, the implementation of that crucial earlier decision.
So the 56 men who eventually signed the Declaration, they were staking their lives, their fortunes, everything on that piece of paper. An irreversible decision.
Absolutely. And that courage, combined with the alliance, the mastermind group they formed, is what gave the movement its irresistible force. It shows how desire, decision, faith, and persistence all bundle together.
All right, so we've covered individual drive, desire, persistence, decision. Now we shift gears a bit, moving towards the structure needed for really big achievements.
Exactly. This brings us to the 9th step, organized power. And how do you get organized power? Through 2 key things. The mastermind principle and using specialized knowledge effectively.
The mastermind. This seems like a really central concept in the whole philosophy, especially when it comes to making serious money.
Oh, it's fundamental. It's defined quite precisely. Coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose.
Coordination, harmony, definite purpose.
Okay.
And there are 2 sides to this principle, one practical, one maybe a bit more out there.
That's a good way to put it. Let's start with the practical, the economic future. The basic economic reality is nobody accumulates a massive fortune completely alone. You just don't have enough personal experience, education, ability, or sheer knowledge.
So every great fortune relies on cooperation.
Always. Andrew Carnegie is the prime example used. He admitted he knew very little about the technical process of making steel.
Really? The
Yeah.
steel magnate.
Yeah, but he understood the mastermind principle. He surrounded himself with a group, about 50 key men apparently.
50. Wow.
Scientists, managers, marketing guys, finance experts, all focused harmoniously on that one definite purpose, making and selling steel efficiently. Carnegie flat out said his entire fortune came from the power he generated through that group.
So the genius in this view isn't necessarily the person with all the technical answers?
No, it's the person who can organize and direct the knowledge of others towards that goal. Carnegie was a mastermind organizer. That was his genius.
Okay, that's the economic side. Makes sense. Now, what about the second feature, the psychic aspect? That sounds a bit more mysterious.
It does. The philosophy suggests it's more than just good teamwork or synergy.
How so?
The psychic feature claims that when individual minds coordinate and function in perfect harmony, something happens. The combined intellectual energy increases, and that increased energy becomes available to every single brain in the group.
So it's like a mental power-up for everyone involved.
Kind of. It suggests this heightened state acts like a conduit, a direct link, allowing the group mind access to what it calls infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence.
Yeah, a source of original ideas, hunches, inspirations, things that none of the individuals could likely access on their own. The whole becomes way, way greater than the sum of its parts. It taps into a higher level of creative thinking.
Okay, that's a big concept.
It is, and it connects directly to the next piece, specialized knowledge, the fourth step. This is the raw material that the mastermind works with.
And the book draws a really sharp line between two kinds of knowledge.
Very sharp. General knowledge versus specialized knowledge.
General knowledge being like what you get from a broad university education. History, literature, general science.
Exactly. And the book is almost dismissive of it, saying it's of very little use for actually accumulating money
Unless it's organized and directed through practical plans towards a definite goal.
Precisely. The core idea here, and it's a powerful one, is that knowledge itself is only potential power. It doesn't become actual power until you organize it into definite plans and aim it at a specific target.
And crucially, the specialized knowledge you need. You don't necessarily have to possess it yourself.
That's maybe the most liberating part for many people. You don't have to be the expert in everything.
Think about Edison again, only 3 months of formal schooling. Or Henry Ford, barely finished elementary school.
Yet they commanded vast amounts of specialized knowledge, didn't they? Through their teams, their mastermind groups, they knew how to acquire and apply knowledge even if they didn't hold it all personally.
So, the person who organizes the specialists is considered just as much a person of education as the specialists themselves.
According to this philosophy, yes, because they possess the crucial organizational intelligence to apply that knowledge effectively.
Is there a more modern example of this? Someone intentionally acquiring just the specialized knowledge they needed?
Yes, the book tells the story of a man named Stuart Austin Weir. It's a great illustration.
What happened with Weir?
He was a construction engineer, already in his 40s, married. Then the Great Depression hits, and his industry basically dries up.
Tough spot.
Very. But instead of giving up, he makes a definite decision, change careers, become a lawyer. But he didn't just enroll in a standard 4-year law program.
No. What did he do?
He zeroed in. He knew he needed to make money fast, so he intensely researched which specific areas of law were most needed and potentially lucrative. Then he carefully selected only the highly specialized courses in colleges best equipped to teach those specific subjects.
So he skipped all the general legal theory, the history, the fluff.
Essentially, yes. He laser-focused on acquiring only the specialized knowledge required for his definite purpose, building a successful practice quickly.
And did it work?
Amazingly well. He finished all his necessary preparation in just 2 years instead of the usual 4, passed the bar exam, and immediately built such a successful practice he was apparently turning clients away.
Wow. So the takeaway.
The book hammers it home. It pays to know how to purchase knowledge, meaning know how to identify and acquire precisely the skills you need efficiently without wasting time on the rest.
That focus on application, on specialization, it leads naturally into the difference between leaders and followers, doesn't it?
It does. The philosophy is very clear. There's a vast difference in compensation and influence between the two. And it emphasizes that real lasting leadership isn't based on force.
Not like dictators or temporary military leaders.
Right. Enduring leadership comes from the consent of the followers. People choose to follow. And there are specific attributes needed for that kind of leadership.
What are some of the key ones?
First, unwavering courage. Not bluff or bravado, but courage based on solid self-knowledge and deep knowledge of your specific occupation or field. Knowing your stuff.
Okay. What else?
Self-control. Absolutely critical. If you can't control yourself, how can you possibly guide others effectively? Leaders have to model discipline.
Makes sense.
Then, a keen sense of justice. Fairness. A leader who plays favorites or is unfair won't keep that consent for long.
And linking back to earlier points, definiteness of decision and definiteness of plans.
Yes. A leader who wavers, guesses, or constantly changes course. The book compares them to a ship without a rudder. Nobody trusts that. It's dangerous.
What about this one? The habit of doing more than paid for. That sounds draining, like a penalty for being in charge.
It's described as both a penalty and an investment. Yes, it requires doing more, giving better service than your current compensation might reflect.
But why is that essential for leadership?
Because it establishes a reputation and a habit of excellence. The philosophy argues the law of economics, which we'll get to, eventually rewards that extra service, often disproportionately. It leads to promotions, greater opportunities, and compensation far exceeding the initial extra effort. It builds trust and proves capability.
And finally, willingness to assume full responsibility.
Crucial. A leader who blames their team for mistakes, who tries to shift responsibility, they lose respect instantly. Taking ownership of failures is what solidifies your right to claim the rewards of success.
Okay, we've built the external structure, the mastermind, the specialized knowledge, the leadership qualities. But none of that works without the internal engine, right? The mental side.
Exactly. The whole machine needs fuel. And that takes us deep into the mental workshop. Step 11, the subconscious mind, plus the vital roles of faith and imagination.
The subconscious mind. This is presented as, well, almost like the control room, the link between our regular thoughts and something bigger.
That's a good analogy. It's described as the connecting link between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. It's this vast field of consciousness that receives and files away every single thought impulse that hits our conscious mind.
Every single one, positive and negative.
Yeah, it's like a non-stop recording device. But crucially, it has a priority system.
Okay, how does it prioritize?
It functions constantly, day and night, but it acts first and most powerfully on thoughts or desires that are mixed with strong emotional feeling.
Emotion is the key.
Emotion is the trigger. Specifically, the book emphasizes feelings like faith, or on the flip side, fear. The subconscious takes these emotionally charged thoughts and, through some unknown process, starts working to translate them into their physical equivalent using whatever practical means are available.
So if this thing is so powerful and automatic, how do we stop it from working against us if it acts on fear just as easily as faith and we're bombarded with negativity?
That's the absolute core challenge, isn't it? The philosophy is stark. If you don't voluntarily plant your definite desires mixed with faith into your subconscious,
Then what happens?
then it will feed on whatever thoughts reach it by default through neglect, doubts, fears, worries about poverty, criticism, all that negative stuff we absorb. It will act on those just as readily.
Yikes. So you have to be intentional, proactive.
Absolutely. You have to consciously override the negative input with strong, positive, emotionally charged instructions. And that leads us directly to faith.
Now, faith here isn't just wishful thinking, is it? It's defined very specifically.
Very specifically, it's described as a state of mind that can be induced or created. How? Through affirmation or repeated instructions given to the subconscious mind.
Which is what autosuggestion is all about.
Precisely. That's why those 6 steps, especially step 6, reading your goal aloud twice daily while feeling it, are so critical. That repeated action is the technique of autosuggestion, designed to build faith.
And faith is described as the eternal elixir, the thing that gives power to thought.
Yes, it's the emotional charge, the feeling component that the subconscious needs to kick into gear and start the transmutation process.
So just thinking about the goal isn't enough. The thoughts have to be emotionalized, mixed with absolute faith.
That's the formula. You have to inject feeling. And this is why step 6 of the Burning Desire Plan is so specific. You must actively see, feel, and believe you already have the money. You're generating the required emotion.
It sounds like you're consciously tricking your subconscious, in a way.
You could say that, acting as if. Because the subconscious, according to this, can't tell the difference between something you actually possess and an idea you hold with absolute, unwavering faith and feeling. It just receives the command and gets to work making it physically real.
And the scary part is, a negative command, given in a state of fear or doubt, gets the same powerful treatment.
Just as readily. The subconscious doesn't judge, it just acts on the dominant emotionalized thoughts.
Okay, so where do the actual plans and ideas come from in this mental workshop? How do we generate the how-to?
That's the role of imagination. Step 10.
And again, the book makes a distinction here. 2 types of imagination.
Yes. 2 vital faculties. First, there's synthetic imagination. This is the one most people,
that work?
It doesn't create entirely new things. Instead, it takes existing concepts, old ideas, established plans, and rearranges them into new combinations. It's the faculty of organizing and adapting what's already known.
Okay, logical enough. What's the second type?
The second is creative imagination, and this is where things get really interesting. This is described as the faculty that provides the direct link to infinite intelligence.
Back to infinite intelligence.
Yes. This is the source of genuine breakthroughs, brand new ideas, flashes of insight, those hunches that seem to come out of nowhere. It's the faculty associated with genius.
And the book uses a story to show just how valuable an idea born from this faculty can be. The enchanted kettle.
That's right. It's a great anecdote. It involves an old country doctor who's broke, needs cash fast to pay off debts.
So he sells something.
He sells a collection of seemingly random items: an old copper kettle, a wooden paddle for stirring, and a slip of paper with a secret formula scribbled on it.
And who buys this odd lot?
A young, unknown drug clerk for $500, which is apparently the clerk's entire life savings. A huge gamble.
So the doctor gets his $500, the clerk gets, well, a kettle and a piece of paper.
Seems like a terrible deal for the clerk, right? But the philosophy reframes the entire transaction. What did the clerk really buy?
An idea.
Exactly. He bought an idea, but the crucial part, the ingredient that made it priceless, wasn't just the formula on the paper. It was what the clerk added.
Which was?
His own imagination and his definite purpose. He took that formula, mixed it with his own vision and drive.
And the resulting product, heavily implied to be Coca-Cola, right?
The implication is very strong. And that product went on to generate unbelievable fortunes, employ thousands, become a global institution.
So the lesson is, the most valuable thing wasn't the kettle or the formula, but the idea itself, activated by imagination and purpose.
Indelible lesson. A sound idea, backed by persistence, faith, imagination. It's potentially the most powerful asset anyone can possess. And you get to set the price, because there's no fixed market rate for a world-changing idea.
Okay, this leads us into maybe the most challenging or potentially controversial principle discussed. Sex transmutation. Step 12.
Yes, and the source handles it very directly, but frames it entirely in terms of creative energy, not just the physical act.
How so?
It identifies the sex drive, the desire for sexual expression, as the most powerful, most fundamental human desire, period.
Okay.
And it observes that when this energy is high, when the drive is active, people experience a heightened state, sharper imagination, more courage, greater willpower, bursts of creativity, things often lacking at other times.
So transmutation means, what, suppressing it?
No, not suppressing it, redirecting it. Transmutation here means consciously switching the mind's focus from thoughts of purely physical expression to thoughts of a constructive or creative nature, channeling that raw energy.
So harnessing that powerful drive and pointing it towards your definite purpose, your goals.
Exactly. When harnessed and redirected upwards, so to speak, this force is capable of lifting people into a higher sphere of thought, fueling genius-level creativity.
And the research behind the book claimed a connection between this and high achievers.
A very strong connection. The analysis of those 500-plus successful men apparently revealed that the greatest achievers, the geniuses, were almost always individuals with strong sex drives.
But
Crucially, they had learned the art of sex transmutation. They didn't just dissipate the energy, they channeled it into their work, their inventions, their leadership.
the research also touched on when people tend to achieve big things, didn't it? Why success often comes later in life.
Yes, it specifically asked why the majority of men who achieve significant success don't really hit their stride until after age 40, often between 40 and 50, or even later.
And the reason given relates back to this energy.
Directly. The theory proposed is that before that age, say in their 20s and 30s, the tendency is often to dissipate too much of this powerful creative energy, primarily from physical outlets. Overindulgence, basically.
So what changes around 40 or 50?
The argument is that often, either through conscious discipline or sometimes just naturally as life progresses, people learn better control. The emotions of love and sex become more harmonized, less purely physical, allowing that potent energy to be more easily redirected into creative business pursuits.
So genius status, according to this framework, is attained only when someone learns to stimulate their mind with transmuted sex energy, being the most potent stimulus so effectively that they can draw upon those higher forces of creative imagination and infinite intelligence.
That's the essence of it. The energy itself is just potential. Discipline to transmute it, to switch its application channel is the key to unlocking extraordinary creative power.
classic fears that apparently plague humanity. And the number one, the most destructive.
Fear of poverty. It's placed first and singled out as uniquely crippling.
Why poverty specifically? More so than, say, fear of death or sickness. Sound like that too.
They are bad, but the book argues the symptoms of the fear of poverty are what make it so devastating to the achievement process out.
How so? What symptoms?
It argues this fear paralyzes your reasoning. It kills your imagination dead. It destroys self-reliance, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative.
Basically knocks out all the tools we just talked about needing.
Precisely. And it directly encourages procrastination and makes self-control impossible. It's framed as literally inviting failure before you even start. It prevents you from even taking those first 6 steps.
What are the other 5 fears mentioned? Just quickly.
Fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, and fear of death.
Fear of criticism. That seems tightly linked back to procrastination, doesn't it?
Absolutely. People don't act because they're worried. What will people say? What will they think if I try this crazy idea and fail? What if my plans look foolish? It stops action cold.
Which leads right back to waiting for the right time that never comes.
And we've heard the advice already, but it bears repeating because procrastination is identified as such a common cause of failure. Do not wait. The time will never be just right.
Start where you stand with whatever tools you have, and better tools will show up along the way.
That's the instruction. The habit of waiting is presented as fatal to achieving desire.
Okay, so those are the internal enemies. But the philosophy also grounds itself firmly in the external world, doesn't it? Specifically economics.
Very firmly. It talks about the law of economics and presents it not as a theory, not as something debatable, but as an immutable law, like gravity.
Unforgiving and absolute.
That's the tone. It can't be swayed by politicians. It can't be bypassed by labor unions demanding more than they contribute. It keeps, metaphorically, an accurate ledger. Trying to get without giving, the penalty is always exacted sooner or later.
This section seems to strongly advocate adapting to the existing capitalist system, doesn't it?
It does. It argues that organized capital is the essential mechanism through which large-scale wealth creation and distribution happen. Without that organized system, opportunities for individuals are drastically limited.
And there's that striking example used to illustrate the power of this system. The simple 20-cent breakfast.
Yeah, it's a brilliant illustration of the complexity hidden behind everyday simplicity. A typical New York family's breakfast back then.
20 cents per person, maybe. But what went into it?
Grapefruit juice from Florida, maybe tea from China, bananas from South America, eggs shipped from Utah, sugar from Cuba, all gathered from around the globe, processed, transported, and made available fresh on a table in the middle of a crowded city.
For pennies, if you tried to gather all that yourself individually.
It would be absurd. Weeks or months of travel, specialized knowledge, massive personal cost and effort. Impossible for most people.
So the point is, the railroads, the ships, the factories, the organized labor, the financial systems, the sheer amount of organized capital required to make that simple breakfast possible is astronomical.
Hundreds of millions, even billions in today's terms. The core message is, if you want to acquire fortune, you must recognize and adapt yourself to the system that controls the pathways to that fortune. And that system operates under this law of economics.
Which guarantees rewards
Based on the value and volume of useful service rendered, it insists on a fair exchange. It absolutely denies the possibility of getting something for nothing in the long run.
And there's a pretty stern warning about trying to buck this law, isn't there? If groups try to take by force what they haven't earned through service.
Yes, a very potent warning. It suggests that if large groups decide to ignore the law, demanding things without equivalent contribution, the system eventually breaks down. It collapses. The text warns, quite chilling. Then comes the dictator, with well-organized firing squads and machine guns. The implication is that violating fundamental economic laws leads to chaos, which inevitably invites authoritarian control to restore order, often brutally. The law simply extracts its penalties and gives its rewards, regardless of human attempts to.
So the entire philosophy, then, is really a manual for working successfully within this perceived economic reality, using mental power, organization, and genuine service to achieve goals, rather than fighting the system itself.
That seems to be the practical stance it takes. Master the internal, understand the external, and align your actions accordingly.
Okay, we've journeyed through all 13 steps. We've covered a lot of ground, from inner desire to external economic laws. Let's try to quickly recap the essential path someone needs to follow to unlock this Carnegie formula.
Right.
specific amount, return, date, plan, write it down, feel it.
Exactly. Then, that initial impulse needs fuel for the long haul. That's persistence, never quitting when temporary defeat hits. And that persistence is built on a foundation of prompt, definite decisions, no wavering.
Then you need leverage. You can't do it alone. So organize power through the mastermind principle.
Coordinate knowledge and effort harmoniously with others who share or support your definite purpose. Bring in that specialized knowledge, either your own or, more likely, through your mastermind.
Scale up your capabilities.
Precisely. And finally, breathe life into the whole structure using the mental mechanics we discussed. Cultivate unwavering faith through repeated autosuggestion. Use your imagination, both synthetic and creative, as the workshop for developing plans and finding solutions.
And harness that powerful internal drive, that sex energy, by transmuting it into creative force.
That's the sequence. Desire, decision, faith, persistence, mastermind, organized planning. All fueled by the subconscious mind and direct meditation.
The philosophy makes one last, really profound point, distinguishing the leader, the high achiever, from the masses who work well. What's the fundamental difference highlighted between, say, Henry Ford and his tens of thousands of employees?
It boils down to one thing. Ford has a mind and controls it. The others, it suggests, also have minds, but they don't actively try to control or direct them.
So mind control is the ultimate differentiator.
Yes. And that control isn't magic. It's the result of self-discipline and habit. Specifically, the habit of keeping your mind constantly focused on a definite purpose, backed by a definite plan. It's presented as the highest form of self-mastery.
We've talked a lot about accumulating money, about riches, but the book does hint at, well, higher goals too, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests the principles apply beyond just finance, and it identifies the truly greatest asset described in the whole system. And it's not money.
What is it?
It's the intangible power of an idea that's mixed with faith, perhaps even love, and backed by unwavering persistence.
And there's one final story that perfectly encapsulates this, right? Dr. Frank Gonzalez.
Yes, it's a fantastic closing anecdote. Gonzalez was a clergyman with a powerful idea. He saw flaws in the education system of his time and had a burning desire to start a new kind of college, one based on learning by doing, practical application.
But he needed money. A lot of money.
$1 million back then. An absolutely colossal sum. And this desire became his consuming obsession, just like the first step dictates.
He had no idea where the million would come from, though.
None whatsoever. But he refused to let the desire die. He decided, as an act of faith and autosuggestion, to prepare and preach a sermon titled, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million."
He literally preached his plan into existence.
He wrote it, prepared it, and delivered it with every ounce of conviction and passion he had, speaking as if the money was already guaranteed, detailing exactly how he'd use it to build this innovative institution. And sitting in the congregation that day was Philip D. Armour, the wealthy industrialist. After the sermon, Armour walked up to the pulpit.
What did he say?
He simply told Gonzalez something like, "I believe you can do everything you said you would. Come to my office tomorrow morning and I will give you the $1 million."
Just like that.
Just like that. That $1 million, which founded the Armour Institute of Technology, now part of IIT, came into existence purely as the result of an idea, ignited by a burning desire, fueled by faith, and expressed with absolute conviction.
So the ultimate challenge for you, the listener, isn't necessarily finding external resources first.
No, it's realizing that your idea, if you back it with that same level of burning desire, persistence, and unwavering faith, that idea itself is your single most valuable asset. It has no fixed price tag. You determine its value by the conviction you bring to it.
So we leave you with this final thought to chew on. We've laid out the mechanics, the steps, the philosophy of the Carnegie formula for translating thought into things. The question now becomes,
What idea are you ready to back with the determination of a conqueror?